A working society is built on three major pillars, and well, two to be fair, because the third one is a result, right? And it's sound policies and capable people. And if any of these two is lacking, it then begins to affect the prosperity, and we see like a decline in development.
I think it starts with each individual realizing that even though our efforts from our individual perspective can be a little bit selfish, but it is important for us to know that we are part of an economy, and what I'm doing, my efforts, right, contribute, even if it is a little quota, even if it is just 1%, contributes.
Yeah.
One of a good way to start for young people is technology. Why? Because definitely we are much more technologically inclined, compared to the older generation. And when it comes to technology, the world is moving at a very fast pace. So we do not have any choice than to join that train and to maximize, the season, to maximize our potentials. Because I believe that right now, people are building definitely much more than before, and I think that it provides every young person a platform.
Welcome to Forge Talk. On today's episode, we have an interesting topic. We'll be talking about people, policies, and prosperity. Let's get right into it. I love your response, right? You spoke about seeing the economy on a larger scale, from a larger lens. Yeah. And I love that because it speaks to people in the country and people that are not even in the country, because I can have that prosperity mindset, and even when I'm not in the country, say I'm somewhere in diaspora, right? The way I approach things is different, because I'm thinking of giving back, building something, building prosperity, right? For building a prosperous people. Yeah. So having the mindset of my people, my country, my society, right? And even wherever I find myself, I can also have like a society there too. So my people, even wherever I find myself, and I really like that. Then you touched on technology, and that's very true, because now you can literally build a solution within a couple of weeks to months. Yeah. Obviously, that's another conversation entirely. But truly, the transition from ideation to a product has changed massively over the years. And truly, because that's one of the new streams and there's even a bigger picture just beyond. Now the AI phase is really growing and booming. There's a lot of investment even in that line, and I think the earlier we connect to that, the earlier we key into that, even as young people, AI is the new oil, to be fair. So right, so the earlier we key into that and we plug into that, we are building prosperity. We are building a prosperous people, right? So to Ezekiel, I think I want to throw that same question. How do young people, to you, how do you think young people can contribute to a prosperous nation or society?
Thank you, Josh, for the question you just threw. I would like to also state that when you look at the statement you made earlier, you said AI is like the new oil, right? But I would like to also state categorically that AI is basically not the new oil. Humans are the natural resources, because that's the mind where all these innovations are coming on. And he mentioned, Tolu mentioned earlier, we talked about technology as a new platform where the young people can actually bring in prosperity, even in our nation, to start with. So when we talk about all this technology now, these are inventions through humans' mind. These are what people are really bringing in. And when you look at the foundation, it started with binary, right? We started with the larger numbers, a 0, 1, and the likes, and then it's emanate or grow from that level to where we have the computer, we have the black and white, and then it migrates to the extent that now we have cloud. Now we are saving our data and everything, and then we see that innovations are coming in. So innovation is another system where prosperity can be built by the young ones. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that you see that technology is here to stay. Technology is penetrating, has even penetrated into the whole system, right? But the idea of young people now saying I must look for a system to bring in a new tech ideas or whatsoever might not be the necessary things to do, because they are now pioneers who has brought in new innovations through technology, right? And then they can also be innovative by looking into this system, and that's where sustainability comes in. So when we talk about innovations now, the young people can look into technology systems that has been put in place that are now into our different day-to-day activities, our business, engagement, and from there you can say, okay, what can we do to innovate this to make it more even easier, or to save more time for people to achieve whatsoever they need to achieve. Imagine gone are the days where you have to save your data in a big room, but now you can save your data in the cloud, even on the tip of your phone, your device. So that's what innovation has done so far, and through the help of technology. Someone founded technology from the onset, right? And someone also brought the idea. So it's about innovation. So the more the mind is able to capture more ideas on how to improve on these things, the more sustainable it can be, and the more prosperity we can have as a nation.
I think I would like to add to what you said, and it's another word or phrase for what you've said, and it is young people should build more businesses. You know, I was listening to Vusi Tekwambayo, and he was talking about that there is capital, that, you know, venture capitalists are looking. The capital is flowing in the direction of businesses, and that's, even though on the surface it may look like no, things are. The idea is still that the people with the money are still looking out for businesses to invest in. Yes, it's just that they're not. It's not just any kind of business. It's the kind of business that is sustainable, that is profitable, or that has potential. So I think, you know, Lucy would also talk about the fact that you stop thinking small business. And I think that's one trap that young people want to avoid. Right. I really wish, and I really would love that every young person thinks big, literally, not the textbook way, but that you can see it. Even though, and it's all right to start small. In fact, it is good to start small. Why? Because you can learn, right?
As you're building.
Yes, as you're building. So, but then there's always that trap of just being small, right? There is so much there is so much potential, there is so much capital out there, literally begging. Right. And yes, I know that our climb, right, our environment may present a kind of cocoon that looks so hard to crack. And that is why we would also be talking about policies later on, right? But there's something about resilience. There's something about, let me use the word determination, even though this is not really motivation, right? I would really call this inspiration, because I wish my audience would actually see what I'm trying to describe. That if you insist, there will be a way. You know, I was talking to someone earlier, and I said that, you know, during the times of our fathers, opportunities came to them. They were, it was a very exciting thing to go to school. Why? Because it's free education, feeding is there. In fact, I was talking with an elderly man, and he was like, during his time, they used to get allowance for being in school.
Wow.
Right. But now in our own time, you have to pay through the nose. So, but then it doesn't change okay, so I was going to make a point that in our own time, right, we create our own opportunities. So we don't wait for opportunities to come to us. We don't let the current reality that we're in, because it is real. We cannot
Yeah.
define the fact that things are hard. We cannot define the fact that Africa has a lot of problems, especially even in terms of policy making and implementation.
Yeah.
Right? But we cannot let that stop us. We have to prosper. And you see, it is that resilience that would actually fight against this environment that has been created for us because we did not create this.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a fighting spirit that needs to come up in every young person. And every young person out there, you need to catch it. I need to catch it. We all need to catch it, because if we do not catch it, the status quo would remain. Right? So that being said, create businesses, not just small businesses, dare for more. Right?
Yeah.
There is this phrase that says that opportunity meets the prepared. So what I am calling you for is preparation. And what I think is we all need to be prepared, because once that spirit is there, once the energy is there, even when you're speaking, when you're pitching to somebody, you're pitching your business, you're pitching an idea, they can literally feel the fire from you.
Yeah.
So you're not gambling, you know that this is it. I'm going to give my all into this. And trust me, with time, you would be the outlier that our generation needs.
Yeah. I feel like I'm sort of enjoying the way the conversation is going. So now we're talking about mind, like a shift in the mind, right? Because what you said, which was very valid, right? AI is booming, but you need, like, there's a need for the right minds, even as we are trying to do all of that. And like you're saying too, we need to start changing the way we see things, the way we build things too, the way, even for businesses, we need to think beyond our current reality.
I just want to survive.
Yeah, just the survival mentality. And because that's what we've been conditioned to think, and start thinking big. And I think that this would even really affect the way we see life, the way we even see business, the way we push for things. But I don't want to jump the gun and start talking about policies, because now this is another conversation entirely. Because when you start saying, okay, think big, bro, thinking big is easy to say, but when you put it down, like, okay, now I have this idea in my mind, and I don't want to, but I think before I go into that, there is the conversation that I was even going to talk about. Like I was going to say we should talk about like how business like relates to prosperity. And I've heard phrases like you cannot be prosperous if you don't have businesses, if you don't have. So that's how I start begging the question of, okay, what happens to 9 to 5 hours? So think about it, because if you look at it in that, like, everybody, most time when you talk about prosperity, one time when you talk about prosperity majorly, you talk about business, and the question that comes to my mind is 9 to 5. Like, are you saying that nobody is going to? But I think I was listening to a conversation one time, and in that conversation, I think it was a conversation about 9 to 5 and prosperity and all of that, and the person was saying that is a mindset shift. And now this goes back to what we were saying before, that it first starts from the mind. And I sort of agree. I think to a large extent that I agree with what was said in that conversation, right? And it was basically saying that you do not have to be the one to start a business. And I think this is where that mindset, we really need to have that mindset. We as citizens and whatnot, we have people that have 9 to 5 that is working. We can't say that you should leave your. To be fair, I don't even think I'm a believer of leave your 9 to 5 and then
started,
because that means that you're leaving your source of income. You have a stream of income already. Fine, you can find a way to start another business, and then if that is fine, you move to that and probably start other ones, which is fine. But some people do not have that time to say, okay, this, and they really want to have that career, right? So how do you not do that balance? How do you find the balance rather? So that conversation was saying something about, and I think I really agree with it. Like, you don't have to be the one to start the business, to run the business. You can invest in businesses. You can, obviously you're making money, right? And from there you can invest in business. Look at ideas. There are a lot of people with ideas that do not have something to fund. And now this. So I'm going to come to something, but like basically there are a lot of people that have ideas, right? And there's nobody to fund those ideas. And there are a lot of people that are struggling, and what they just really need is just a little bit of push, and things begin to change from there. So now to do this is another conversation entirely, because from there you have to think like a businessman.
Okay.
Right? Because even in your 9 to 5, you need to be looking out for things, and that's another conversation. You have to be, you can't just invest in businesses, right? You can't just invest in anything. You have to make your research and all of that. Then there is now another thing I want to mention, that even for small businesses, we need to start thinking like, so I think it still goes back to mindset basically, but you need to start thinking like a big business. You need to start putting structures in place. Because say, for example, I want to invest in a business. You're telling me to invest so and so amount of money.
Yeah.
I need to see reasons to invest. If you're giving me ideas, I need to see data. Okay, fine. You, for one reason or the other, you've not been able to start, which it begs a lot of questions, because there's most times there are ways you can start. Starting does not exactly mean you're starting the business. Starting can mean gathering data, gathering information, because those are the things that you present to someone that you want to invest in your idea, invest in your business. So even if you have a business that you're running, you need to start thinking, putting structures in place, have like proper records, documentation, and all of that. And then from there, you pitch. That's another thing that we I don't think a lot of people do here. I might be wrong, but I don't think a lot of pitching really happens. You know, you have a business that you're running, and you can really see that this business is going to actually be big, but you do not have the resources to do that. You don't have the resources to build that business. You can't pitch it. You can't look for people that you believe this person would understand, right? Or would have the resource to fund this business. You can't pitch it. You can't, push it. And from there, I think the story will change. So I think I really agree with what you're saying.
But to add to what you said, one of the things you would come to realize is that you were talking about pitching, and there's no point you will get to in your business, or you want to scale. You need, because you can't do it alone. That's just it. In fact, God did not create this award system for it to be just about one person.
Yeah.
You would need to pitch yourself. You would need to put yourself out there. You need visibility.
Yeah.
And you don't outgrow that. And that is why you would see big brands like Pepsi, right? They're still advertising aggressively. You're thinking, what are they looking for?
Which is crazy, to be honest.
And it is that they understand visibility. Yeah. They understand that you have to put yourself, you have to, like I said, create your own opportunities, right? Just have to create your opportunities.
Pushing.
Keep pushing. Yeah. And yes, I was going to add that to what you said.
Because I feel like business is one of the major push for like a growing economy, or like even prosperous people. Most people that have, I think I've listened to videos, shows, and whatnot, where they talk to billionaires and whatnot. You rarely see people that don't have businesses, right?
I would just like to add to everything Josh and Tolu said so far. Like I said earlier, we are looking at the subject of people and policies, right, that gives to prosperity, and this is what makes a nation to work. Or that keeps a good nation. When we talk about business now, I'd like to just relate it to a story in the Bible. Talk about Jesus, for example. Now, before he started his ministry, that we supposedly assume, which was 3.5 years, right? One thing I learned from him is that he started even before that time. So while he was very young, the scripture recorded that he was in the temple learning from professors, right? And I'm relating it to the point that you made earlier regarding being tenacious and committed to whatever research you are doing in building a business. So when and you also made a point about starting a business that does not necessarily have to do with you doing it outrightly, that you have to gather information, right? So if you look at Jesus, for example, now he was in the temple learning. And then when he was led into the wilderness and he came back, the scripture recorded that he came and he opened the scripture and he was reading that the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, this day, this scripture is fulfilled, right? And then if you look all through his ministry, there are instances or scenarios that they brought people to him for him to judge. And then he kept silence and he said he's not there to cancel or to abolish whatever law that Moses has given from onset, but to also honor and everything. So he wasn't giving any verdict or any response to abolish whatever that has been put in place. Look at the woman that was caught in the act. He was just doing business, right? Jesus was doing business. So one thing I just want to put out there is that you can see that before he started his ministry for the 3.5 years, he did a primary assignment, which was gathering information, researching, sitting with the professors, right? Sitting at the temple, learning and hearing of them of what has even happened from the Old Testament, from time past, and on building on those subjects, despite the fact that it was the word, right? He has this mind here. So he still had to learn these things before he comes into the ministry. And then while doing his business also, he realized that he can't do it alone. He had to now engage 12 other men, which are the disciples. And this shows clearly how business is a very beautiful thing that can help a nation to build a nation and bring in prosperity. And not just that alone, also there is a need for people involvement. So that's where you see the disciples coming in now. And you could see that even after he left, he finished his ministry on earth, the business could continue until date. We are all doing their business today. How? Because he was able to empower some persons. So we see that the power of people is a very vital part that we cannot neglect or do without. So when we talk about business now, it still always has to do with involvement with people. Jesus had to involve the professors to learn from the histories of what has been written or has happened in time past before even he commenced his ministry. And when he commenced also, when he started the business, he had to engage the 12, he had to engage some people. And when he left, the business continued because he was able to share from his own wealth of experience or knowledge to them. He had to impute them, give them a lot of things. And then when the empowerment came, when the endowment of his spirit came, they were able to go in the knowledge of those things that they've learned within the space of 3.5 years. So it shows how business in our world today is a very vital or an important aspect that can help a nation to get better.
I agree with that point.
So I agree. But we've been talking about business, right? We're talking about how business helps and all that, telling young people to push and be tenacious. Because he said, make your research, right? Have data, pitch your business, blah 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 that stuff. Start small. Now, I feel like this was what I wanted to say before, and this now begs the policy question and policy conversation, right? How, like, if you look at a nation that we are, for example, in now, it's very difficult to have a small business that works. What do I mean? All of the basic things that you need for a business is power, and we have very unstable power. In fact, some places
I would call it non-existent.
like everybody's literally looking for alternatives. Like you cannot have a working business and not have like
solar is king now.
That's where technology comes in, right?
But the real question now is how many people. This is going to stay a conversation in another direction, right? How many people can afford solar? How many people can afford we need to say things as they are, right?
Yeah.
The common man cannot have. We know how much solar costs to have like a good, proper, minimal working solar system. It costs a lot. That is way above the minimum wage. What is the minimum wage, right? So now you're trying to be innovative, right? You're trying to work something out. You're trying to do all of that, but it looks like the system is against you. To be fair, because
it is
because nothing seems to work. You wake up today, you feel like you're making progress, and you can wake up today and it looks like you've gone 1,000 steps backward, and you begin to have a lot of questions. And that's why if you look at the same business in this country and another country, you can't compare it because there are some things that you now, as a small business, an entrepreneur, you're thinking, I need to have an allocation for fuel. I need to have an allocation for this. I need to have an allocation for that. Things that will be sorted easily. Let's even assume that I've gotten to a particular level where some of these basic things are no longer the issue, right? You start talking about more expense for even the same fuel that you're saying, because obviously as your business is scaling, this other costs increase. Now you have bad roads too, because obviously if you're saying your business is scaling, you will need some form of transportation, regardless of whatever business you are in. Even if your business is not product, you would have to move around, right? there is a lot of things that we can talk about in terms of policy. So the first question is like, how policies in a nation like this, what can you do? This I have a lot of questions in my head.
Yeah.
So firstly, what can you do? Is there anything that you can do differently to maybe first of all manage the situation? There's also a conversation of what can you do in terms of policy making and all of that. Like there's that, but some policies already they are there. There's the state of the nation that we are in already. So like trying to do all of the things that we've said about business, data, tenacity, working on your mind and all of that. It seems very. It looks like we are not seeing.
Abstract.
Yes, we are not seeing the reality, and you can't tell me I don't have enough to eat. You're telling me to be tenacious. You're telling me to think.
Even knowing that if I try, there's no guarantee that.
Do you get
The result will be
like there's some in a working system, right? Some basic things are not part of your major concern. So now that these basic things are your major concern, what can you do? Because now I cannot just be ideas. I cannot just be thinking. I have to eat. Let's even say I don't have a family. I need to have a roof over my head. Like there are basic things that we need to have. So like, is there anything that we can do differently? Is there any contribution? Is there any like this is just an open-ended question because this is a concern I have, right? Do you get?
Like you said, there are two ways to it. To rephrase your question, how do you survive first?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you survive first?
Yeah. I like the way you took a deep breath because it's a very important question. And I am really particular about this because most times the first set of conversations we've had are things that I believe, or let me say I want to believe that a number of people know. But this that we want to talk about now is the major concern.
Yes.
Survival first, because you have to survive first of all before you. So yeah.
Well, hello. I'm a spiritual person, and I think that is the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
And I would not be going in the way of asking or saying that people should pray more.
Yeah.
Prayer is a constant. I would just say that wisdom is the principal thing. And the book of James says something. It says that God gives wisdom. Like if you ask him for wisdom. And the wisdom I'm talking about is in terms of, because now we're talking about practical. Wisdom is very practical. We're talking about instructions. We're talking about having insight. In a time like this, you do not, even though we want to learn from mistakes and all of that, the truth of the matter is failure can be very, not just painful, very costly. So you want to do due diligence in terms of taking advantage of the wisdom of God. So if I want to start a business now, I've done my feasibility study, I've done my research, I've done everything, and it looks good. I still won't jump into it. I'm going to go to God, my Father. And I'm like, Father, what do you think? Now, what I might have missed that would have cost me in future, you can point it out to me. And I'm being very practical with it right now because oftentimes for me, when we talk about the religious perspective, just usually vague, like just read more, just study more, just pray more, or give more. But I think that in a time like this, anyone who wants to beat the system, because the truth of the matter is if you're in Africa, if you're in Nigeria, the system is against you.
I agree.
The environment has been deliberately structured to make things harder than necessary. So, having that insight, having divine instruction, start this, invest here. And I know based on some people's personal experience, they may think that this is not practical, but now I'm here to tell you that God is much more interested in your prosperity than you are. He's much more interested in your success than you are. In fact, God wants you to succeed more than you actually want to succeed. Yeah. And that is why scripture says that Psalms 1 verse 1 and 2, it says that the blessed man is like a tree planted by the rivers of water. It brings forth its fruit in due season. Everything it lays its hands upon, it prospers. And you see, for many of us, these things, we say them, we quote them, but the truth of the matter is, when darkness strikes, it means that it's calling forth to light. So we need to find that light that is able to quench that. The truth of the matter is, I could list out 10 strategies. Maybe I can say, okay, Japan, go and then send money back home. It's not a bad idea. And that might even be the way God wants for some people. But I just believe that in whatever you will be doing, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to bridge the gap, like I've said, that God factor is the
It's very
winning
important.
factor, right? And it should be the baseline for whatever strategy, right? That we need to. So it helps with survival because God cares.
Yeah.
Yeah. So God cares. And if you ask him, but I believe personally that God does not just want us to survive, he wants us to thrive. And that is why this conversation is important, because it's all about looking at how practically we can create a thriving economy. And I'm talking on a national and even international. I'm talking about
Scale.
Africa, that's our burden, right? So how we can create that thriving economy. And so, for those who are still in the survival phase, if you are going to leave survival into actually thriving, you need the God factor. People can do it without the God factor, but obviously people are failing around us, and that is why we see the rise of corruption, the rise of
cyber
crimes, and all of that, because it's just people giving themselves that push.
Just find an alternative, basically.
Yeah, but we as children of God, we cannot. So you see, the scripture that we carry now needs to become practical for us. So I even believe that it's a good time for us, right? Because it is the time to that thing you've been quoting, that scripture that you've been saying.
Yeah.
It is now time. Darkness is here. Yeah, let your light shine. Let us see. So it is a test for us. So we are not disadvantaged in the real sense of it. We are actually, God is our advantage. We have an advantage. Why? Because, which is not, I'm not trying to say this is a good thing. People are being, so you can, the distance will be clear. The difference will be clear between those that have God and those that do not have God. So I think that's the best way to deal with survival, right? Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for me, like you said, and I said, wisdom is a principal thing, right?
Yeah.
And also another word that stands so strong for me is this: what it says, study to show thyself approved, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, right?
Yeah.
So what that means in the sense is that there is a place of researching. I made mention of that while we were discussing on the subject of business, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at this area now, you look at an individual like who wants to do business, who wants to move from the survival mode to the thriving mode now. Like, how can you escape that phase now? You have to study too. And now we are talking in relation to policies, right? When you look at a nation like Nigeria now, there are a lot of systems in place that are not even favorable for your business to thrive. Now, you say you want to register your business to start with now. You say, okay, you have to bring this and this for the document for a CAC, and then you see another person that will tell you that, okay, I can help you fast track it if you can bring so amount. So someone who is on a survival mode might not be able to even afford the mode of fast tracking the registration process. And now, based on the policy that we have in a nation like Nigeria now, before you can start a business, a standard business, a recognizable business that can be patronized by people, you have to be registered, right? And now you are in a survival mode and you cannot even afford such. But when you have a knowledge of the policies that surround whatever you want to venture into now, you have a very rich knowledge of the policies that surround such. They are, I believe, there are also clauses that are involved in these policies that you can dwell on, that, or you can make use of, that can give you some leverage or even advantage in scaling up. And that's where wisdom comes in place, right? So for me, what I think we can do better as individual, even in our nation as Nigeria, is to do our due diligence by knowing the policies that has to do
the current policies.
with our mode of engagement, So in that way, we can move from that mode of survivor into thriving by ensuring that we scale up whatever ideas that we are trying to even put in place as a business.
Taking advantage of it.
Yeah, but true. I get, I like your from spiritual language. It's very valid, to be honest. But it's just that, again, I feel like for me, I like to be very practical, right? And I like that you made it very practical, understanding the reality of things. I've heard some people say things, and it's just very amazing to me. You're saying things as if you do not know the reality of things, right? And I like that was also a very like a focus for you even when you were saying it. And for understanding policies, as now I don't want to be that person, but as much as I get that, is it's not a question of you know in a working system, right? Your understanding of policies and your understanding of these things goes a long way. I'm not even saying that even in Nigeria, obviously, we need to be more involved. I feel like if anything, we need to be more involved in the politics of the nation. And I love that now there's even a wave of that, like everybody's saying, no, get involved, know what is going on. Now, to be very honest, before now, I don't think I really cared about the budget. I just, okay, they've allocated another trillion, another, it's fine. But now I'm beginning to question it. I think I still have a long way to go, to be honest. Like I said, I wasn't very interested. But I think gradually I'm seeing the need I'm seeing the need to know these things. I'm seeing the need to be what's the word now, invested in the political ecosystem of the nation, right? But there is also like the fact that these policies there's a whole big conversation that we can actually go into when it comes to policies and all of that. But like, it just feels like for the average man, it's just not working. And I'm really coming from the aspect of an average man because a lot of people are in this phase and a lot of people are thinking, how do I move? How do I grow? There's just a lot of questions, right? And I feel like it still goes back in a way to firstly understanding the state of the nation, know things to your advantage as much as you can, right? Like in terms of policies and whatnot. There's also starting from where you are. I feel like as much as possible, you have an end goal. You start from where you are, and then you now definitely have to add spirituality, like your spiritual Christ, basically, to it. Because to be fair, I can also bring up people that have tried. Like you would literally listen to this person's story, and you're like, what else can this person do? And it's just really sad, like I said, that this is where we find ourselves. But just like we said, I feel like the major thing is to first have like a shift in the mindset, firstly, and from there you begin to get involved in like policy, like decisions and policy making. Just basically like involvement in politics. I feel like one of the things that we've been thought, sorry, one of the things that we've learned, we've been taught to do over the years, right, is to, I don't want to even say taught to do, is more like the things that has been, trying to find the word, I would say like, just in a way, conditioned to do is to see and think that our involvement doesn't matter. Because
it's true.
there is a whole conversation about involvement, because I feel like once you're involved, you begin to see things and then it begins to pain you. Like the pain, you feel it more.
You see the problem more clearly.
Yes, because before now, I obviously I live in the nation, right? So you know that this problem exists. But I feel like the more you're involved, the more you see the need to even be more involved, because you begin to question a lot of things. You begin to do all of that. And I feel like that is also a good way to start. But again, I don't know if anybody has anything to say about this, but like, again, I know that we've talked about ideas, we've talked about developing skills, working on your mind, and those things are very important. I'm never going to lie. One of the things that would even help you, young, old, whatever stage you are in, struggling, thriving, whatever it is, all of these things are actually very important and key, right? But like for someone that is starting out, that is, maybe freshly out of school, or it's not even in school, like for one reason or the other, cannot afford to do that, what do you do?
I think we need to help our viewers understand how policy really influences them, and I'll just do that in a few words. We say that Nigeria is bad, Africa's all of the problems are basically looking away from the foundations, right? most of the problems are really a result of, number one, policies that have not been enacted, or the enacted policies that are not well implemented.
Yes, that's it.
So so Africa we have a policy making problem, and we also have an implementation problem.
Yeah.
So it has now created bottlenecks that have now piled up, and it just looks so cumbersome. So, and the question is really that, how do we start to solve this problem? Because it is a problem. It is our problem. Yeah. We can choose to go on complaining and hoping that something, but obviously, I think you should know that if we do not go into this and find a solution for us, nobody is coming to save us. And so, how do each and every one of us actually participate in policy making and implementation? And I think it starts with our involvement in politics. And some people may think that involvement in politics starts with you joining a political party. No. I believe personally that it starts with you exercising your political right or civil right in terms of actually voting in people that you know and you're sure that are capable, and even people that represent you. One of the problems we have in Africa as a whole is that the people who they are not representing us.
They
are not for us. That's just the truth of the matter. They're doing their own thing, answering to whoever they answer to. But we need our leaders to answer to us, right? And how can I do that, right? By making sure that I vote in the right person. Now, if I have this mindset, if each and every one of us have this mindset, you would see that. Let's take the example of the last American election. You would see that what made the election so smooth, kind of quote and unquote, is that all hands were on deck. You could see that everyone turned out. Like the winner was so clear that even though the
opposition,
they were not happy, but they could not agree.
There was nothing,
So because Mr. B, all hands are on deck. And I believe that in Africa, if all hands are on deck to actually do the right thing, the evil fellows amongst us, the people that are actually causing the chaos, that are causing the pain, that are inflicting the pain, because yes, the nation is in pain. We are in pain. In case it is not obvious, we are in pain, and there's no point in denying it. So, we need to get involved, right? We need to vote for people. We need to actually, in fact, if you find someone who you know that this person can represent, sometimes they may not want to go there. They are just comfortable. Carry the person out. You will go for it. It has gotten to that point. We need capable enough of just having that. So I think that's a good starting point for us to actually influence politics. Policies. Vote in people that represent you. Know your representatives. An average Nigerian does not know the person that represents them in the House of Rep. And even if they do, they don't hold him accountable. Your House of Reps. The individual. Well, let me say your representative, right? Is answerable to you. Should answer to you. So we also need to come to that place where we actually hold them accountable for the policy that they are pushing, right? So you go to the House or you go to the Senate floor and they are raising a motion. How you vote? I want to know how you voted. Because it will affect me. You're not voting for yourself. You are voting for me.
Yes.
Right. So when this mindset, begins to well up in each and every one of us, it will be even hard for us to be led astray. And I think that's a good starting place for us to actually influence the policy that affects our lives.
There's a general word that goes this way. It says, ignorance is not an excuse, right? So I believe as a nation, the major problem that we have as a nation, as the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is that we don't know a lot of things and we don't even try to know them. We don't try to know them. Now, I want to paint a scenario now. Let's assume I'm in a position of a power in our nation, Nigeria. Probably I'm the president of the nation. And then I know I'm ruling for a particular term. and I know I still want to further more, or I still have interest in some one or two key positions, I would like to use my veto power as the president to propose like the chief judge of the nation and some key places that I know that when the time for election comes in, they can work for me or do things in my own favor. And these are things that I personally have observed in the system of our nation, Nigeria. And this boils down to policies too. Because I feel when it has to do with policies and appointing people into power as the president of the nation, there should be a place where the public also has a say, especially when it has to do with the judiciary aspect, the electoral aspect. Most times you just see people come out and the only thing you see is the news. That okay, someone has been appointed into the position. You are not even aware of how the process went into play. So these are where, for example, now in my own line of profession now, when we carry out a baseline study, for example, we do a report writing which is submitted to the federal government for review, and after it has been submitted, we do a review, a panel review, where a representative from the Federal Ministry of Environment comes in, and from the local government of where the project is being established. Stakeholders, you call it a stakeholder engagement. That everybody comes in and we do a presentation of what the project entails and how the result of the analysis that has been taken, talk of the air, the water and everything, and the results, the impact that we've seen so far that we met in that environment. And what this does is in the future time, we can check, meet again with their present state of activities to compare to what we met before they start operation and after they've started operation. And now when you have a system like this, where the people who are involved, talk of the federal level, the state level, the local government representative are on seats, and the host community also, talk of the baales, the obas, the youths, the women, the men, everyone are on seats, and they listen to those things and they see what this company is into. They can decide if they want the company to be established in their community or not. And that's how it should be, right? But when you have stuff like this happening in terms of manufacturing systems or industry, it should also be able to play outright well in the governmental systems when it has to deal with appointing people into positions or roles that has to affect the future or the hope of the nation. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say now. Because on the long run, these are where people have their own say to. They can say, okay, why are you sure that this person that you're putting into position as the chief judge of our nation is going to be free and fair in decision making when it has to judge cases that has to do with the people and the government? Okay, I'm bringing a case to the court now as an individual. So I'm charging the government because of an incident that happened. Are you going to be ruling in my own favor or be ruling in favor of the government because they are the one that put you in power? So this is where policies are very, very important, and we have to know. When we know them, we can question them and we can query them, we can critique them, and then we can say that, okay, this is fit. Because policies in the courts is not just about policy, it is about sound policy. And when there is sound policy, it's meant to favor the people.
The masses.
So it's meant to favor the masses. So whichever policies that is being enacted or put in place that does not favor the masses is not a policy for me.
Yeah. So I think that's very nice. Even what you said, involvement basically, and that's also what you buttressed. But I think involvement would beg a lot of questions, right?
Yeah.
Because from there you start seeing loopholes, and maybe some other time we talk about it. You start asking questions like, okay, you're saying I need to be involved, especially like in policy making, and you just realize that boom, this person has been maybe put in power, whatever it is, right? You just see that things come up. You don't even know how. And there is a question now in my head, like, okay, how do you do all of this? But I feel like maybe if you have this conversation again, we'll tackle some of those questions. But I definitely believe that involvement in policy making, like in the decisions that are made on our behalf, we need to be involved. We need to start holding people accountable. We need to start changing the mindsets that we have to politics, which I believe is very valid, right?
Definitely.
Because from that I say this sometimes. I say this to my friends, right? And I'm like, we most times look at the bigger picture: president, vice president, We are supposed to, or probably governors, we are supposed to start from like
who is your local government chairman?
Yes, like start from there. I feel like once we start from there, it trickles, like it goes up. once you know that you can now hold your local government account, like chairman accountable,
Yes.
that guy is forced to do something for you. He knows that if he does nonsense, you're not waiting for him. No problem. You're there. Obviously, there are other systems to like maybe remove the person. Like, okay, no problem. We don't even want to stress. Enjoy. We know that this is the end for you. This is the end. So this is the end for you. But you're not coming back again. So I really agree that involvement in politics generally is actually very important. And I feel like even for me, something that I'm really trying now, because honestly, it's like a condition, like I said before. So it's something I'm trying to like really do because I feel like it's very important and integral. Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, what this conversation has done, I think if there's one thing we can, it's the fact that the responsibility rests on us as a people to steer the kind of change that we want. Yes, the government has a role to play,
Definitely.
but obviously they've proved to us over the years that if we do not, nothing will be done.
Yeah.
So in terms of creating business, in terms of creating our own opportunities, in terms of exercising our voice, in terms of exercising our rights, in terms of advocating, those that can be activists. At this point, I think it should be criminal for anyone to be complacent when it comes to nation building, when it comes to our collective prosperity. Basically, the summary is that all hands must be on deck. So it's a call to everyone, both young, both old, in government, businessman, 9 to 5.
Yes, definitely.
Everyone, all hands have to be on deck. And if we're able to do this, I think personally, I'm very assured that the prosperous Nigeria that we all desire, the prosperous Africa that we all desire, we will definitely see it and would, achieve that goal.
We've come to the end of today's episode on Forge Talks. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.